Hey, I'm Matt. This is Let's Talk Music, and I am here with Brandon, Seattle-based Endorphins Lost. He actually informed me that he's joining us from Arizona this evening. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. It's Friday, so can't complain.
I feel you on that one, man. Been a long work week.
Yeah, for sure.
So, let's talk about the new Night People, man. Killer song.
Thank
You
you.
guys are putting out a 14 song. Is it an EP or LP?
It's an LP. It's just makes long play. I think it's around 20 minutes,
Oh,
so
okay.
45 RPM. Try and keep it try and keep it ripping because this kind of music, at least for me, if 33 RPM, over 30 minutes, even though I like this stuff, it's exhausting to listen to after a while. You can see it on the you can see it on the analytics if you look at like Bandcamp or something, longer albums, people stop listening after about the first 10 minutes or so. It starts dropping off dramatically. So try and keep the albums with a little brevity so that all the songs get some shine.
Okay. So you guys just released Headsick in August of 2022.
Yeah,
And is that this album or is that the separate album?
that's an EP, and that was kind of a logistics snafu how that happened. Um, both both albums were recorded in the same session, but it was meant to be that the EP came out, many months before the LP. It's just something in between our last LP and this, just
Hmm.
to kind of have something out there that, yeah, we're still doing stuff, and here's something to kind of hold people over for the LP. But with the pandemic and everything, that's bottlenecked everything that we were trying to do. So they kind of came out just about at the same time. It's a good problem to have in a way, but with an LP, it typically outshines the stuff on the EP, which it shouldn't be overlooked because the band at least, we love the songs on the EP. We feel like they're just as strong. So
Right.
it's worth
And
checking.
so I read in your press release that you guys focus a lot on mental health and the mistreatment of people and stuff like that. So tell me how that all started.
Uh, well, we it's become more and more hard and cliche to try and talk about, I don't know, global conflicts and stuff when, uh, let's face it, I'm not doing anything about a lot of crisis that affect global issues. In fact, I'm probably doing the opposite. I drive a car, I burn fossil fuels, I do this, I do that, I buy clothes that are probably made in sweatshops. Unfortunately, it's just part of the world that we live in. It's nothing that I can do anything about. I guess you can't really do anything about mental health either, but it's something that we know a lot about personally. It feels a little less false to talk about because it's something that it's affected all of us. It affects everyone, obviously, anywhere, but um, it's just something that we can really speak a little bit of truth about. And so I try not to write things about just like overarching huge problems. I try and write things more so from the idea of just put you right in the middle of it. You know, um, this is just how it is. This is just how life is. A lot of people don't have to see it or live it, but try and shine a little light on problems that I don't know. It's in it's in our life every day. You
Right.
know, so I mean that there's plenty of inspiration for that because uh, I know I personally I write a lot from kind of my personal life, and it's just I've seen a lot, I've been through a lot, and writing about this stuff has been pretty therapeutic in my
Mhm.
life. So multiple benefits, but more than anything, it's just trying to write about something that we actually know what we're talking about. You
Right.
know.
Yeah, and I've heard that from several artists that write about mental health or um, suicide stuff like that. Basically, they've experienced something in their life. Somebody that they was close to committed suicide, or they've their own mental health issues. Excuse me, and they have said that it is to write and to get it out lyrically and get it out there into the world is very therapeutic. And I've explained to them that it kind of works both ways.
Yeah.
When you're listening to the music and you understand what the artist is talking about, and you feel where they're coming from, you can be like, okay, I'm not alone. That this person that I'm jamming to right now, this person that I idolize, or that I listen to, or whatever your case may be. It's it works both ways, and I feel like that in itself is more help than any kind of like global issues. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, because right, those things, I mean, they're certainly an issue, and,
right,
and there's certainly a crisis, and there is urgency there, but you got to be able to take care of the small problems before you can take care of the big problems. And I mean, if you're dealing with just debilitating depression every day, that's something that's right on your doorstep right now,
right,
you know. And I would agree. I mean, that's pretty timeless. You look at blues music. These guys are writing about this stuff because they are in the absolute depths of everything, of poverty, of depression, of heartbreak. That's the kind of stuff that you want to listen to when you feel like that. It's like
right,
these guys know they're expressing with music and words exactly the feelings that I'm feeling that you can't, I say this a lot. It's like when there are hard times and there's bad things that are happening, I almost don't want to talk to anybody, because when you put your problems into words, people understand words. It puts it in a box, and it makes it manageable. Therefore, person you're telling your woes to, they can go, oh, okay, well, I get it. Well, you could do this and you could do that. It's like, I don't want you to give me an answer. There is no answer to how I'm feeling right now, or at least not what I want to hear. So that's where music or art can be a lot different, can be a lot more cathartic, because it's more interactive. You're expressing how you feel, and you're getting some type of return through the art. And if people admire it, if people come to a gig and they enjoy it, that's like a flipping of a script of turning horrible feelings into something that somebody can appreciate. So
right, right. Yeah,
yeah.
I get that 100%, man. I mean, I know that throughout my life, I even wrote a blog on it on my website that, how does music make you feel, and go through the different feelings, of sadness, happiness, whatever the case may be. And, you think of a song that, you listen to. Like one of my favorites when I'm like just really aggravated and almost at my wits' end is Sanitarium from Metallica, because I
Yeah.
relate so much to that song of like, okay, I feel like I'm, people are trying to manage me and this and that. And, it's, I get it, man. And I really do appreciate what you're doing. And I think that it, like I said, it helps you, it helps, the people that listen to your music. So it's, in a way, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've been this band has been a band for almost 15 years, I guess it's 13 years or so. And I've, I've never gone to therapy. I've never done any of that. This is how I work out my problems.
Right.
So it works for me in that regard. It works for me as like a social lubricant. I can be at a bar, I can be around other people who are trying to have a good time. I'm a pretty antisocial guy. So it's like, well, great. I can scream in your face. And not only does it not make you upset, it makes you happy. So,
Right.
hey, can't ask for more than that.
So you play bass and do vocals, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so like what's some of your like real influences when it comes to bass? Like, I mean, who is it that you just automatically think of that, man, this dude is somebody that, I listen to, can't get tired of listening to, that, who
Yeah.
gets you going, man?
Well, I mean, to not stray too far and digress into crazy different kinds of music and stuff, I'll stay pretty adjacent to what we play. Alex Hughes from Hatred Surge. Um, he also is like the brainchild of the music, and I really like his songs, his compositions and stuff. He's also, vocals and bass. That's cool. Jeff Robinson and Capitalist Casualties for sure. That band is kind of what got me started in this kind of music and stuff. And he plays the same way, he plays with his fingers, does 50-50 vocals with Sean, the vocalist. So yeah, I guess those two guys I'd take quite a bit of interest, inspiration, at least through hardcore from.
So have you ever done any other type of music besides hardcore?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm in a bunch of bands right now. Ranging from like rock and roll to grindcore to sludge. Just try and play music that's visceral,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like explosive, you know. Um, it's interesting, but yeah, I've done all kinds of music, and if it interests me enough to do it live, um, I'm into it no matter what it is. I mean, what would be really cool is to play, I don't know, jazz or something. A lot of times we get together in a jam room with some guys to do like hardcore or something, and they don't know anything about musical theory. I don't, I know only the building blocks, but it's kind of like learning another language. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you know it, then you can do so much more faster because you're not just trying to learn by ear and learn by sight. So playing something with like players that are much better than me musically, like jazz or something, that would be cool. But just don't find those guys. I mean, look at me, I'm a crusty dirtbag. What jazz dudes would want to play with me?
Yeah, I tell you, I mean, I dig some jazz. I really dig blues. Um, it's Delta blues, just all that, man. It is like you said, it's almost just like uh, I can't even explain the feeling that like it kind of you get from it. It's like, man, you can put yourself in those people's shoes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember times like that, and this guy singing about it, and man, it sounds good. The moan of the guitars, and just the all the hi hat and snare. I mean, I freaking I love it all, dude. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's kind of like church or AA or something for a guy like me, where it's like, here's your community. You're surrounded by people who either are your peers from being in bands, or they're peers in the respect that they enjoy the art and maybe they identify with it. You know, it's kind of like being in a vacuum, I guess, or an echo chamber. You're kind of talking to people who are all in the same realm, but in a way that's the most welcoming thing you could ask for.
right.
I try and tell people, like normal people, oh yeah, you're in a band. Yeah, kind of. I mean, yes, it's very much a band, but it's not what you would probably think of. And they want to hear the record. I'm like, it's not stuff you really listen to. You just go to the show and experience it.
Right.
It's a visceral experience. It's a reactive experience that I think is easier to palate or understand if you just see it
Hmm.
rather than trying to listen to it and just go, that's just a wall of noise. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't get it either, really, unless I was, thinking about how I got into this kind of music. I mean, from seeing it live,
Right.
uh, it's not super palatable to try and just jump into listening to someone screaming over blast beats.
Yeah, but see, that's my thing, man. Is like I get into all of it. Like I said, when I started when I was a kid, man, I started out listening to Michael Jackson, Pat Benatar, bands like that, and then I heard my first rock song I actually heard was "Heaven's on Fire" from Kiss, and
Yeah.
then I got into Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer, and then I started branching out to like Obituary, Deicide, bands like that, and it kind of died off for a while. I mean, I know there was an underground, but it kind of died off for a while. Then you got metalcore that came out, and then I feel like sludge metal, death metal, whatever you want to call it, whatever genre you want to put it in, is making a comeback. A lot of the bands that I've talked to recently, especially over in Europe, man, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
I've been talking to the bands over there that female fronted that are screaming just like all sounds like Arch Enemy. You got bands that are just they throw the clean and unclean in there. It's been an awesome experience to talk to all these bands and just hear different styles. I really I'm grateful for the publicists. So, I mean, I just started working with Liz and David, and I think you're maybe my second or third band that I've done with them, and most of their bands are hardcore.
Yeah.
And it's I dig it. I know that what you're saying though. A lot of people like my wife. I play a song like that, and she's like, no,
Yeah.
she's like,
Yeah.
I just can't get into the screaming. She's like, I can't understand them. And I'm like, well, it's different for her than what it is for me because I've always had a good ear for music.
Yeah.
Like I can go to a concert and I can pick up when, the guitarist misses a note or, something like that. And I don't fault him. It happens. But, I'm just saying I've always been so into, I want to say like the logistical side of music,
Yeah.
not of I love live shows, but I've always paid attention to, if your band went on and did a documentary, I would watch it and I could tell somebody, oh well, you know, this band Endorphins Lost, this guy's been through this and this guy has, a kid that's this old. I mean, I just remember stuff like that for some reason. I
Right.
retain it. And it's just because I'm into you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm into you, if I'm into your music, I want to learn about you as a band, as a person. And that's why I was discussing with somebody last night. Is one of the biggest things I miss is cassette tapes. When you could take out a cassette and open that thing up, and you could read the lyrics and you could, see who produced it and who did this, who did what. It was that pulling that sleeve out was just so much fun for me. And
Yeah. I think that I was just talking to someone recently about how that is lost in the digital era so much. That people will go, oh yeah, have you heard this new song by this band? And you go, that's part of a full album, right? And go, oh yeah, but this one song. You go,
right,
well, the part of the art of making a record is the sequence. It's how it flows. And so if you take one song out of the middle that abstracts everything, that's like watching 3 or 5 minutes of the middle of a movie.
right.
You just okay. Well, I don't know anybody that would do that unless you have like severe ADHD or something. So why would you do that to music? You're cheating yourself from the entire work by just taking the selection out of the middle, or whatever the case. I very much miss albums, tapes, vinyls. Of course, you can skip around, but you're less incentivized to skip around because it's not easy to do. You get forced to
Right.
listen to the whole record. And maybe on the digital version, you would have skipped over that song. But when you kind of forced, you get a different appreciation to it because you got to you okay, I'm listening through this song to listen to the next song. Oh, actually, when I sit down and listen to this, I really like it, you know.
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
and that, I mean, that's the
yeah,
thing. I've talked to a few people about that. Is like it's, uh, you would hear a song on the radio, and you're like, oh man, I gotta get that tape, and you would say, okay, it's the third song on side A, so obviously you gotta listen to the first and second one, otherwise, you're fast forwarding, like you said. And I mean, you did really experience more. You're like, well, man, I didn't hear this one. This is pretty kick ass, and so on and so on. And also another one is like concept albums, like
yeah,
Operation Mindcrime from Queensryche. Was
right.
it told a story. So
Yeah, you're missing everything.
right, you had to listen from beginning to end to understand the story. And you're 100% right with the digital age. It's made it so easy for people to skip over that. And I feel like that's their loss.
Yeah,
You and I lived in an age of where cassettes, records, stuff like that. You as you said had to listen to it or be very skilled at skipping shit. And it was really, I mean, and you would find once in a while on a cassette or whatever, you'd listen to it and one song would come in, you're like, really? But for the most part, I mean, I wore tapes out, dude.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that is the difference between appreciation for something and just kind of passing through. A good example is like I never I came into digital everything way late because I was just too poor to have any of it. And by the time it came around to, people torrenting and downloading stuff, I've been listening to these albums from cover to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've got 5 albums and I listen to them all the time because that's all I got. And meanwhile, these people that I know who've been torrenting stuff, they have hundreds and hundreds of songs. They have so much stuff. They don't even listen. They forget they have it. They don't even listen to it. You go, man, how can you it's just you can't digest any of this, and it does a disservice to the art by just taking it at face value and moving on. I don't have time. It's like it disrupts your attention span to have that much capability. Everything at your fingertips. And like you said too, to your point about opening the jacket, there's a lot of time and thought put into the art, the imagery, the credits. I mean, and again, we might be outliers. I'm the kind of guy that watch a movie and then I watch all the credits. You see who was the production manager and who was cinematography and this and that and the other thing. Then all the behind the scenes stuff is just as important a lot of times. I mean, take for example, like you were talking about a lot of the like Florida death metal bands, Morrisound bands. Um, it was the same thing with punk. So when I was going to record stores, and I first kind of got into this stuff, they said Capitalist Casualties. Love that band. They were on a label called 6 Weeks Records, which I found out later was, Jeff from Capitalist Casualties and his wife Athena. That was their label. But at the time, I'm looking for bands on this label and I'm looking for tons of songs,
Mm-hmm.
and you turn over the record. There's some bleak, just messed up shot from a crime, scene photo or whatever. It's wow, that's striking. You see 20 songs, 6 Weeks Records. Okay, I know I'm just gonna buy this blindly. Never heard this band before, and 9 times out of 10, I liked it. That's all that behind the scenes work that goes into the packaging to
Right.
sell something, which you totally lose. I mean, I guess there's like a thumbnail of digital things on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, but all of that other minutia is just gone. It bothers me quite a bit. Being, you say it's their loss, but it's also my loss too as an artist, because if people can't digest the entire package, they're less likely to care. You know.
True.
there's millions of bands that sound like my band. What's the one thing that's going to get someone to stop that extra second to check it, to actually check it out, you know? And so that, I don't know, if you're into something, you should do it as best as you can. And I think that the digital age kind of snubs people at being able to do that.
Right.
But that's my own tangent. I don't want to sound like uh, the Unabomber or something with this Luddite problem with technology.
Hey
Anyway,
man, I agree with you, dude. I mean, like I said, I was I I miss the tapes. I've got some vinyl that I've been collecting lately. Got one of the newer type of record players, but it's one of the biggest things ever that I miss is Headbangers Ball,
yeah,
MTV. I
yep,
mean, you used to see so much, and these artists would put so much into making those videos. And I talk to artists now that are doing videos on YouTube and whatever, and they're like, "Oh man, we did it in 2 days." And you talk to somebody from back in the day, well, yeah, man, that video took us like 6 weeks and $200,000, and here they're
yeah,
doing 2 days in a basement for $3,000.
right.
So it is. I get where you're coming from, man, and it is kind of depressing in a way. But I mean, it is the new age, and I guess we just have to embrace it the best we can. And you know, I think it. I don't know. I feel like it everything comes in full circle, and I feel like eventually there's going to be another type of music television. I don't think there'll ever be another MTV, but you know, something is gonna this gonna somebody's gonna eventually say, you know what, I want to see videos on TV again, and not from YouTube, not from this. I want to see, bands. I want to see, live footage. It was just the visual part of it was so just cool, man. I mean, I remember so many videos from back then that just like Slayers, what was that? Seasons in the Abyss, in the middle of the desert and stuff. And I'm sure it was shot probably somewhere in California, but you know what I mean? You still get the visual of it.
Yeah, well, right. What was old is new again. That whole circulating of trends and things. You see it to some degree. I mean, you know, take for example, our bands, we don't do CDs. CDs are like that middle ground between digital and having a physical copy, but no
Hmm.
one no one buys them. I don't like CDs. If I want to do a physical piece of something, we make records
Right.
or you make tapes, I mean tapes I like tapes because they got a cool sound too, and that for that analog aspect, you're kind of forced to listen to the whole record,
Hmm.
the whole thing. Or you do straight digital. Either way, it seems like that right now. There's those two camps of thought. There's not that middle ground. So well, yeah, we'll see. I mean, that would be cool if things came back around to just slowing down. You know, I
Hmm.
mean, so much information overload all the time. Great things get missed because there's too much. But really, I mean, if you think about hardcore and metal and stuff like that, it's a pretty small demographic of people. They're,
Right.
they're they're all kind of listening to the same thing. They're just getting pulled in too many directions
Yeah.
to really focus on anything. So that would be cool. That'd be cool to see people kind of slow down and digest the stuff a little more than just cool. That was the flavor of the week. On to the next thing. You know.
Hmm. Yeah. So you're talking about live shows. What's in the works for you guys getting out and doing some live shows?
Well, being that I live, you know, in Arizona and the rest of the bands in Washington, when we get together and do gigs, we do clusters. Some people would call it a tour. I mean, people call it depends on what people think of as a tour. I fly to those guys. We'll do 3 to 4 shows at a given time. But um, as far as like you know, longer tour, proper tour. We're going to try and get back to Southeast Asia in the next, I don't know, year or two. Let's hope. We were there in 2000, at the end of 2012, 2013, and it was awesome. It was fantastic. So after kind of getting our feet wet with going to that part of the world, we want to go back with a better plan. We want to do Japan, maybe some Australia, and then get back and do Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore again. But it's it's on the board. Just gotta put it into motion. So that's probably going to be our next venture.
Okay. So nothing big in the US.
Um, we're just kind of there's a lot. There's so much going on at the moment with the record out. We're just kind of sticking to clusters of shows, throughout the country. So, um, just went up and did some stuff in the Northwest last weekend. Probably do some more stuff in the Southwest. Do a weekend, a long extended weekend on the East Coast, that kind of thing. But yeah, as far as just getting done with those record release shows, there's the 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 slate is clean right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's also you're putting your singles out there too, and kind of you got to give people a little bit more to bite on than just a song. You give them maybe a 6 month span and you got 14 songs, so let's say you put out maybe 7 or 8 of them for people to listen to, and then that's when you start going out and doing your clusters show. People are like, oh man, I can't wait to freaking hear this song.
Right. Yeah. You gotta. You'd rather them be wanting more than going. These guys just came through. Here they are again. you know, that's never good.
Right. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate your time, man. And like I said, I personally enjoyed listening to it. It's my cup of tea. Because
Awesome.
I could imagine live. I'm sure it's a hell of a freaking crowd, pits and everything. So
Yeah. Well, it's up and down and a blur. We do about 20 songs in 25 minutes, and yeah, it's over in a flash. If you're not there, it's easy to miss. But yeah, the next time we're out, I'll try and make a big splash about it, and maybe you can come check us out.
oh yeah. All right. Well, Brandon and Endorphins Lost. I had a great time talking to you, man, and I'll get this up on YouTube and we'll get you out around this area, and that's what it's all about, man. Music's a community, it's a brotherhood, and I'm 100% with you guys.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right, man. You have a good evening.
You too. Cheers.
Cheers.